Hello and welcome. It is, of course, Solo Sunday, and we shall very shortly begin, begin playing the game and so forth. There we are, just making sure I had the right campaign file open. So, I was, I suppose, a bit of a short thing before we actually begin. That being, well, we do appear to have one slight technical issue. Strange enough. Anyway, disregarding that little technical issue, it likely, probably, maybe won't be too much of a problem. Well, as for my introduction, sort of. Not my introduction, as always, I'm your host, Casimir Basilius of the Grand Dimensional Empire. Imperial Lord and all that. So, yes, the thing I wanted to cover beforehand. So, last time on World Building Wednesday, we did a little bit of a talk about preparing and all that. We didn't get much done. We've more so rambled. But off screen, I didn't, of course, work on the thing. I mean, like I always say, I'm torn between actually working on preparing this campaign and saving it for World Building Wednesday. I'm always torn between those two. I mean, I could spend a bunch of time working on this campaign on not Tuesday, Wednesday days. I can work on it on not World Building Wednesday, or I can work on World Building Wednesday. I'm always torn between those two. Anyway, it is, of course, the day of the actual playing the game, but a bit more of a prelude before we begin. I did the thing we said we would do on World Building Wednesday, which is, I mean, they're not nice to look at. They're not nice to look at, I'll tell you that much. But they get the job done. And that is little markers that we can use. Specifically, scale markers, just so we know the scale of certain map things. That's literally what they're for. Not that, like I explained on World Building Wednesday, we don't really need it for 50-foot maps. I decided to make scale markers for all of them, but it's not like we really need scale markers for these maps. Scale markers are specifically for this kind of map, because they repeat scales. As you can see, hopefully, it's not blocked. Below it, it says world and local, terrain and single, and then world and local, and then theoretically you'd have another terrain and single. Because each one has a different scale, and due to the fact that basically there's two markers for each one, and they share And also the only difference is the name and the grid type. It's hard to tell the difference and the scale of each map. So while I have squares for that, of course we have specifically these ones. Oh gosh, that's a bit big. It's try size 10. There. Basically just to know the uh, the scale of the map, because like stated, these can get a little bit confusing in the actual scale. So a world hex, 1,000 kilometers, 100 kilometers for the subhex. This would be a terrain, so we'd grab a terrain hex marker, size 10, just so it's visible. And voila, we now know that this is a terrain hex. The subhex is 10 kilometers. That way, basically just makes it a bit easier to track. Otherwise, I have to sometimes, like, if you've seen, sometimes I'll stare at these and I'll be like, what scale is it? I won't say that, but I'll just silently think about it for far too long, wasting a bit of time going, okay, so if this is this, this is this, and this is this, therefore this is this scale. And it just wastes a bit of time. So this should theoretically make it a little bit easier to basically just look, okay, terrain hex, so each one of these is 10 kilometers. Makes it a bit easier. Anyway, so that's what I was doing before stream. Just finishing up those and making it so it's easier to tell what's what. Of course, yeah, no, that's that. So, without further ado, oh, we're probably going to level up. Not right now, of course. We don't have the experience points yet. But after this session, we will probably level up. So, next World Building Wednesday, we will world build. But if we don't level up the character at the end of this, I mean, like, we're probably going to have enough experience. I mean, like, if we do, but we decide not to level up, we'll level them up on World Building Wednesday. If we do, we might level them up at the end of the stream. Not sure, one or the other. Or we might not even get enough experience. So who knows? Anyway. Let us... Oh, there's one other little statement that I had. Two, technically. Sorry, I like... Crazily enough, I know this is going to sound absolutely wild. I enjoy talking about working on Galactic Requiem. I also enjoy playing Galactic Requiem, but I enjoy just talking about working on Galactic Requiem. So, you know, crazily enough, who could have guessed that the person who spends all their time working on Galactic Requiem enjoys working on Galactic Requiem? Crazy. Basically, worked on a bunch of different things. I'm not going to get into the details. It's solo Sunday. We're here to roll dice. There was something though. Oh yes, I'm torn. I am torn between two views. I suppose I was going to skip my little speech, but I mean, we might as well. We might as well. So, of course, I thought myself better than other more eccentric Imperial lords. But to tell you the truth, I've grown somewhat to understand their reasoning. The moving of fleets to needless battles, the favored units, the dramatic plans, the temptation to control the very universe. I have grown fond of our mercenary adventure, Juliana Aldous. But worry not, I shall not interfere, no matter the result. But I would be lying if I said I had not recently considered it. It is like watching a show. You want your favorite characters to win, to live, but alas, where is the fun without the risk? Could I not send a strike force to kill her enemies, destroy the entire world she seeks vengeance on? But what would I enjoy of the mission? Her quest? Could I not grant immortality to our adventure by backing up her mind? But where's the challenge? Where are the stakes? I suppose I shall do what many another Imperial Lord has done, and spend the budget of an entire nation on some form of superweapon, and prepare a monologue. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. All those meetings with other Imperial Lords recently are really getting to me. Anyway, yes, but I have been tempted to use our little device, the one we use to even watch our adventure, the device that lets us alter the very fate of the universe, at least on a small scale. Well, without getting the attention of Imperial Special Operations to look in my general direction, which we don't want. But basically, I have considered, and what I'm torn between is, of course, not really assisting our adventurer, of course, not interfering, but granting some form of capability, a little bit of a extra assistance. I'm torn because I'm not sure if I want to or not. Do we enjoy the pure risk of it? An average citizen of the well, I wouldn't say average, but a somewhat average citizen of the galaxy going about their mission? Or should we give them a slight benefit, such as the special ability that doubles action dice storage? I mean, that's relatively, I mean, it's nice. It would make our adventure a little more survivable, but it wouldn't make that big of a difference. Of course, there's different steps we could do. There's all sorts of different options available to us. There are specialty feats for heroes and the like. Of course, we won't give them any of those. But I was just wondering, should we give our adventure something like double action dice? Something like that. Not game changing, but a little more survivable. That's the kind of thing I've been, well, like I said, I was considering far more drastic measures, but of course not. Of course not. But, what about something just as small as doubled action dice? What are the options, actually? We have a few, technically speaking. But, see, like, that's it. I'm not sure I want to, but also, for instance, like, there's all sorts of dramatic effects we can apply, honestly. Not all of them beneficial. For instance, there's these entire series of campaign qualities you can apply. Like, bleak, which means action dice don't explode. Of course, we don't really want to apply that one. I mean, it works on all sides. That one works on every side. There's bloodbath, basically, automatical criticals, which of course, but all sorts of different things like that. There's two very good ones. One is, of course, double action dice. There's two variants of it. One, everyone gets double action dice, and one, our heroes get double action dice. And then there's a bit more powerful one, which of course, another one I don't really want to apply, which is, where is it? The heroes, or, whoever has the thing, can basically regain action die. Sorry, nope, it's all characters can spend a full round to regain an action die, and then there's an additional one which only the characters can spend a full round to gain an action die. Or we can just double action die capacity. Or there's one which is con damage and massive damage, con injuries and massive damage are ignored for all. And then there's one which con injuries and massive damage are ignored for players, and basically lots of different modifiers we could apply. Of course, they cost world action dice to apply, but, But I was just considering the simple one, the very simple one of just doubling action dice storage. Maybe, not sure. Anyway, it was just a consideration that I'm torn between whether doing or not doing. That's enough rambling, however. Let's actually get to the solo RPG. And unfortunately, the technical issue has not sorted itself out. I was hoping it would just automatically, refresh itself after a while. Sometimes they do that, but this one hasn't. Unfortunate, it won't really have too much of an effect, but it is annoying. Anyway. So, we of course have our world map, sort of. This isn't the world map, but this is the, local map. That's one of the things we're going to do on World Building Wednesday, is we are going to work on the world map. Anyway, we are of course in the city. This is 10 kilometers per subhex, so you can get a rough scale. And if you know traveler maps, you probably know what each of these mean. For instance, this is city. These are rough woods. This is swamp or marsh. These are marsh. There's a river running through there, some mountains. Another city, another city, another city, and even another city. A little lake here. And of course, a few battalions. This is a war zone after all. We of course need to place enemy battalions, and there's a lot to do on World Building Wednesday. Anyway, enough of that. Let's actually finally get to the game. So, when we last left off, wrong map. This is the right map. Our enemies were basically destroyed. One of them's dead for the most part, and the other one has taken critical injuries and has taken 12 damage or something like that, and has critical injuries. They have a total of 17, I want to say, health. Unfortunately, I don't have such things memorized, but I have the sheet right here. Yep, 17 health. So they've taken 12 out of 17 damage total. Of course, you don't die until you get to, you're dead at -10. You're absolutely dead at negative your full HP. Technically, you're alive at negative, I mean, you can be medically brought back at -10 to negative your full HP. Assuming you're on, a world like this with technology and the like. If you're not on a world like this with poor technology, then, well, you're probably not going to survive at -10. Anyway, so the car has crashed into the side of the building. More a slight bump than a crash. But the driver's in a way. And, let's see. Oh, one thing I need to do. Sorry about that. I forgot a little bit of things I should probably note down before we begin. Here we are. There we go. So, the car has crashed. We will approach and, so I can bring up our sheet here. There it is. We might need to reload. Nope, we did reload last time without quick reload. We will... I wish we had a melee weapon. Hmm. You then all this is not going to, bash their skull in with the butt of her laser rifle. That's not her style. So we need to waste some ammo. It is going to be, what's the rules? Because technically they're, well, yeah, technically they're incapacitated. Mm, mm, maybe. We'll say they are. In this situation, it wouldn't always be the case, but they're strapped in. They lost control of the vehicle, just slammed into a wall, and they're injured heavily, so we'll say they're incapacitated. Assuming this ever loads. Thank you. Here we are. Okay, being adjacent to the target. Ranged attack. Basically, we're going to do we're going to attempt a coup de grace automatic kill, sort of. I mean, it's an automatic hit. It counts as a crit. And we're going to ensure that it works by just firing 20 rounds to damage at the target, point blank. Basically, almost putting the laser rifle up against their head for the most part, and then just holding down the trigger till 20 rounds are gone. So that's going to be 2d10. You know, now that I think about it, we could capture them. You know, it was an option. What's the automatic damage to hit? It's 5, isn't it? Yep, with our feet, it's +5. (15 × 2). They're dead even without that. Like, it. We could have fired one bullet and they'd be dead. Killing the final gangster in the vehicle. Having returned to base. Well, to be fair, Yelena Aldous is a bit upset about the damage to her bike. She'll hop back on her bike. No, she'll walk her hover bike back into the base with her allies. Oh, wrong map again. There we are. Nope. Someday, I'll pick the right map. There we go. Assuming there we are. Returning to base, having failed absolutely at that little task. I mean, the task was to get a job. And we happened to end up shooting one gangster critically in the leg, getting chased by them, and killing 2 of them. We wanted to work for them. So I'd say that's a bit of a failure, but sometimes that's how it goes. Let's see. Having returned to base, let's look over our equipment. Just real fast. We're going to need 2 mags. Well, cells. They're energy cells, not magazines. You know, at least I didn't call them clips. Yeah, well, tell you, we need 1.5, but they're not rechargeable. So we need 2 mags. We also need to repair our bike. Did we take any damage to our armor? We're wearing the heavy? No, we didn't take damage to our armor. Or at least if we did, we got it repaired. We took damage, though. 2 points will heal in basically a day. As for the bike, we'll ask the gangsters to repair it for us. Which we'll have to make a check for. This is going to be an impress check. We're going to have a +5 modifier on it. Our bosses pay their bosses, so. 18. Sorry. I still have to organize all my files. +17 +1. Nope, it was 18. 18 +1. Technically, I believe we can go to +3. Okay, so now we need to verse their roll. So we'll say we got 21. We'll use our AI, of course. But likely so will they. Well, they'll at least use the net. We don't know whether they have an AI or not. We could always ask the boss. Anyway, let's roll that dice. 11. Okay, what's the modifier? The modifier being there because even if we add 4, there's something else we need to check, basically. Here we are. So they get a +3. 14. 16. Plus what? As long as it's not +5, we succeed. By the way, what I'm checking is difficulty. I'm requesting something from them that's relatively minor, but there's a penalty involved for basically being like, hey, can you do this for me? Because it technically costs them resources if we're being like, you know, technical. Here we are. Okay, that's a success. It really, either way, it's a success. So basically, if we consider that posing a minor inconvenience, it is going to be no bonus or penalty. If it is a moderate inconvenience, it is considered a -4, which is one away from -5, but like as stated, they would have to have exactly 5 to match, because 11 plus 3 plus 2, 16. 5 would bring it to 21, which would equal our roll. So we technically succeed. They will repair our vehicle for us. And it is relatively cheap. Do remember, they are an organization with a stat block, no less. I suppose we can talk a little bit about that. Organizations are treated like entities in Galactic Requiem. Sort of. They're treated... They have stat blocks and so forth, and rules, and we've gone over all of it before. Not really the exact rules of it, but in short, there's one important factor to it. And that is, for this anyway. Notice how it says resources 6, -2. That's the modifier, but it says resources 6. That's the important part. Resources 6 means, by the way, I'm going to get you the most accurate information, so it'll take a second. The way the game works, resources 6 basically means we'll give you this little bit of additional information, because why not? Not that this is actually... This bit's not important, but... Resources 6 means they've spent a total of about 2,100,000 on the stat. To get it to that, they've spent $2,100,000 to get the stat to 6. Well, credits, but forgive my translator. That means having a 6 in resources, in short, it gives them free ability. Normally, if you were to repair something, it would cost money. Less than, buying a new one. It's cheaper to repair than you just need parts, but we have an entire system for that. It's not important. In short, 6 means they get $210,000 Galactic Standard credits free, not just into their bank account, but ability to call upon those items, do tasks worth that much for free as an organization. It costs the organization no money out of pocket to do tasks up to that amount. So, well, not forever, of course. That's, I believe, every month. They can do that much, basically at no cost every month. Of course, if you increase your resources score, that number goes up. It's not really more than you would earn. How do I put this? Like, having 100 workers earns you like 320, I want to say. Earns you like 320,000 a week. So, like, technically, you're making far more money than you've ever really gained from that. Of course, if you have one worker and stat, like, 100, which is the maximum, yeah, then it's worth more than your workers, but that's like implying you have the resource. You do spend, like I said, getting that one stat to 6 is worth like 2,100,000 Galactic Standard credits invested, which is what one of the benefits for having an organization is, which we've been over before. Organization's very useful. Also, if you're not careful, very dangerous. An organization attacking organization costs money. Like, if you take damage, you need to spend it to repair that damage. And other organizations can basically do things to take money from you. So if you have like, you don't want to necessarily just make an organization. If you just go, I'm one person and all this benefit for, yeah, it costs money to form an organization. You also have to make a skill check and it takes time. But also you don't want to because theoretically, you start with like 1 health. Sorry, no, 6. You'd start with like 6 health in your organization, I believe. Maybe more, but not a lot. And if you were to basically do anything, your organization, without actually investing into it, can be easily destroyed. Much as how people are always saying, running a small business is risky. Do you know how many businesses go under and all that? Yes, you want to get to a point in which your business is stable. You want to get to a point to which your organization is stable, and that takes more money than the minimum investment. Yeah, you can have a minimum invested organization, but it's going to be on shaky ground. And if you lose it, all that initial investment, which isn't small, is just immediately lost. You know? So if you're wondering why, like, if there's all this benefit to even having an organization with negative stats, why doesn't you all just start an organization? Because she wouldn't be able to dedicate time to it or money, and then it would just get destroyed and would cost more than it would be worth. It's just a waste of money. Well, if you have a plan and workers and invest into it, it becomes very profitable. Anyway, so yeah, they'll try and repair it. Let's do the math. Here we are. Nope, we have to go to the index. There we go. Repairing and crafting. We can take the average of 7. And how long is that? An hour. 7 an hour. How much damage did our vehicle take? Well, here's the annoying part. And by that, I mean, you know how I mentioned you can take damage to parts? There is a downside. It's not all upside. Like, if you're wondering one reason why would I not take damage to parts, which we talked about last time, I'm pretty sure. You know how I said it doubles your HP? Yeah. Those parts have their own HP that need to be repaired. So, yes, we have 11 out of 25 HP. We also have to repair the crew compartment separately and the front thruster separately. Meaning, not only... So, we can't split that, by the way. As it says, if you're wondering, like 7 out of 10, that's going to be 3 points off of your 7 points an hour, right? So you can put the rest into thruster. No, they're separate parts, so We have to repair them separately. So it's going to take a bit longer. It's going to, theoretically, if we were paying, it would cost a bit more. Anyway, let's do the math. So that's going to be 2 repairs, 1 for the thruster, 1 for the crew compartment. And how many are we going to need on the hull? 2. Exactly 2. 11 plus 7 plus 7 is 25. So that's going to be 4 hours. Here we are. So yeah, it's going to be 4 hours, and it theoretically would have cost us anywhere from about 400 or 500 to theoretically 2,000 or more, depending on where you go and all that. But luckily for us, we succeeded to check, and we get on thing repaired by the gang, meaning we can remove all that. You then, Aldous, having failed at finding a job with the other gang, will just read one of her 2 books. And basically rest for the day. Which will gain her back her, well, oh, we'll go to the dock. Get some first aid on it. Why not? Four, not ideal. Plus, four, plus 2, plus 2, plus 3. 15. If you really want to know, by the way, where I'm getting all those numbers from. 4 in the skill, even though they technically have more in the skill. They're a dedicated doctor, so honestly, they would probably have the maximum of 7 in the skill. But they are a gang doctor, so probably less. So we'll go with the base of 4, which is the standard in a skill for this level of character, level 4. I mean, you can have the maximum, you can have 7. Usually people put 7, but we're saying they have some training in it. So 4 plus their modifier for the stat of 3 plus 2 for the, sorry, I got that backwards. 4 for the skill, 3 for the stat. After 4 for the skill, 3 for the stat, 2 for the specialized class. That specialized, let me, here we are. Two for the feat, 2 for the specialized class. And in short, that basically translates to what we have. That's where those numbers are from, by the way. So, is that enough? I believe it is barely enough. But, I mean, let's be absolutely sure we're not getting things wrong. Go to medical. Yep. Treat injury is a DC 15, so we barely succeed. Not that it would have mattered, really. But anyway, D4 plus 2 is 3, meaning we are back at full. Okay. We will lastly rest for the rest of the day. Okay, that means that goes up by 1. That goes up by 1. That goes up by 1, as we'll, spend some time training them. I'm not just going to sit there and read for the entire day. Action dice full. Hmm. Drop that down to 5. And lastly, no, that's, oh, let's get more ammo. And how much is that going to be? 80. We want to 160 bucks. Time to drop our money to a non-nice number. There we go. And we get 2 mags. Bringing us up to 11 cells. And we'll toss that empty one. Oh, we had 1 empty armor-piercing cell. One more second. Item catalog. Ammo. $80 plus? Is that right? 600, yeah, there we are. I was looking at the wrong thing. It got shifted down. $560 is what they will charge us. $280 is what we are left with. And we get one more armor-piercing cell. We will also buy a melee weapon from them. I mean, I keep thinking about not, but then wanting one. We're not really trained. I suppose that's why I keep not getting one. Simple, personal, advanced. We have archaic weapon proficiency. I mean, we're not going to take penalty for using any of the base melee weapons. But what would we want? By the way, we have technically infinite choices. Well, not infinite, but every weapon. We could just go with the standard combat knife. Well, we're going to buy one of those either way. It makes absolutely no sense not to have one. So we'll get a combat knife. And with markup, which I despise, but we're buying from a gang, so that'll be $500. You can usually get them for like 50 to 100 credits, so. We'll get one combat knife. And a real weapon, which I dread looking at the price we're going to have to pay. So, but what is it we want? Sword, spear, halberd, war axe, war pick, war hammer, machete. We have no. Well, I'll tell you what we're not going to get. We're not going to get a pike, or a long pike, or a very long pike. The reason for that, by the way. Good against cavalry. 20-foot reach for the longest pike. Don't really need that. By the way, it can only attack 15 to 20 feet away. So it kind of is ineffective at close range, you know? Not really what we're looking for. But a choice, it sure is an option, I suppose. Hmm. I mean, my favorite weapon is the halberd. But we're not going to get a halberd. That's not Yulana Aldis's thing. I think we'll get an advanced war pick. Yeah. It's going to cost, though. An advanced war pick. Checking my final file. Advanced melee weapons. 5,000 per unit. Just the base price. It's not like it does vary per thing, but I don't have it listed here easily. This is the quickest way I can do this. So 5,000 per unit, meaning they will likely charge us. It's also a bit rarer of a weapon, technically speaking. Probably going to cost more than the base advanced weapon cost because it's a bit more complex. So 15 is what we're going to pay. Not a Lord's War pick, advanced War pick. There we go. It should also have bludgeoning listed. Okay. Advanced War pick. 15. Dropping us to 66. There goes all of our money. Did you know we could have bought a normal war pick for like 500 credits somewhere else? Could have probably gotten a war pick for an advanced war pick for 10,000. A normal war pick for 500. By normal, I mean like, non-advanced tech, just piece of metal, old-timey. Advanced is why it does 2d10. Normally, it would do like 1d8. And for high quality, technically we'd be getting high quality, like the Lord's one would do would cost. It would still do 1d8, but it would cost about 1,000, maybe even 2,000. So, you know, advanced one would cost like 5 to 10,000. So, markup price for buying from a gang, we end up at 15,000 for a simple melee weapon. I say simple, technically has advanced materials in its construction, which is what allows it to do so much more damage. Anyway. We could even dual wield them, theoretically, if we were trained in such things. We are not, though, so we'll just take on one. We should actually train in not dual wielding them, but the specialties for it. as it has very fun specialties. Melee weapons have bunches of feats, not for each individual weapon, but for categories. And the category feats can be very fun. For instance, if we get or train the feat, when you hold the readied weapon, this class of weapon, +2 on intimidate checks. Further, the following stance and trick. Driving stance. Each time you hit with a melee attack, while in this stance, your opponent is pushed 5 feet away from you, unless the square is occupied or blocked, in which case they suffer subdual damage. If your opponent is pushed back, you may move 5 feet towards them basically automatically. And then the trick, Crush. When you may make a full attack standard action with the weapon, getting a +2 bonus with your attack check and +5 with damage. Which would be real nice. We can also train martial arts with melee weapons. Martial arts with melee weapons have much the same abilities, well, similar, with this. For instance, if we had martial arts, we could theoretically increase the damage die size. You could then get moves. Block is useful, but you know, like we could get additional moves like I don't know them off the top of my head. I know that sword ones like slash and so forth that basically give you bonuses to hit and additional bonuses to damage. Anyway, all sorts of stuff like that, theoretically, if we were trained. We only have the very rudimentary training with melee weapons. So we don't get none of that other than block. We're allowed to block with it. And that's about it. We have yet to actually use block, because we haven't really been in melee combat, have we? But it's super useful. We, of course, want to try and get advanced and improved block and then counter and all that. All that kind of block stuff basically lets you do all sorts of very, very neat things. Like counter. Block counters, like you block, and then if you succeed in your block roll, you automatically get a free attack on your opponent. And so forth. You don't get infinite. It's not like for everything blocked. There's rules and so forth that cover it. But basically, all sorts of neat stuff like if they fail to hit and you block with a disarm, well, if you block and they fail to hit with block disarm, you get a free disarm attempt at them and so forth. There's all sorts of neat martial arts, melee, weapon, and unarmed maneuvers and so forth that you get to use and all that. Which makes melee combat very fun. You know, assuming you don't get obliterated by a gun trying to get into melee combat. But if you make it into melee combat, it can be exceptionally good. Like, if you're melee trained and you're fighting somebody who's not, you can just, if they have an assault rifle, which is not really the best melee weapon, you can disarm them and then, well, things get real difficult for them. And as you can see, hopefully it's a bit small, but advanced war pick, -3 damage reduction. Your average combat armor has 5 DR. You can theoretically hit through those plates. I say theoretically, the advanced weapon does 2D. So, plus strength. So this weapon will always do damage past their armor. At least for us. If they're wearing medium combat armor with, solid plates, we will basically always bypass it for at minimum 2 damage. And then, of course, if we use any of the moves, which we don't have yet, but theoretically, like, you get the point. Like, melee combat can be exceptionally viable. But also, you know, you have to get into melee combat. Which is where specialized energy fields come in. There are anti-ballistic energy fields. And theoretically, they can help you get into melee combat. And there's all sorts of other ways. Tactically moving. Like, look, let's be smart, okay? If the enemy with a gun is here, and we're here, we probably don't want to run at them while they're in cover with our gun. What you want to, with their gun, well, with our melee weapon, we probably want to head in here. Look if there's a way out over here and try and flank them. Tactics are important, as is taking cover. So, you know, those are things you're going to want to do. The key is to A, suppress your target, pin your target, and then flank your target. You don't want to just, I mean, you can theoretically achieve results theoretically if both parties are in cover just exchanging fire. You can achieve results that way. But flanking your opponent works a lot better if you have multiple elements on your side, pin the enemy to their position, and then flank them, etc., to achieve far greater results. Of course, there are other ways too. If you have a grenade launcher, launch a grenade, pass their cover, and voila. But, you know, there's multiple ways to go about anything. Anyway, hopefully we'll actually get something done today. Let's see. We will be contacted by our ally, as technically 8 hours have passed. Our contact will inform us of several contracts available to us. They will hook us up with contracts. Let's see. So now we theoretically have the ability to gain contracts in this area. Let's see. 1 second. So, I suppose we're going to need to generate missions and all that. Also, let's do a quick check. Quick check. Prized possession. Crash, which we avoided. There was a crash, at least. A character's diminished to a degree, well, nearly. Something is not working. The vehicle. We sort of hit each one of the targets, kind of. We'll count it. So, we gain 1 favor. Okay. We're healed. Our equipment's reset. We got some new equipment. We're starting to run low on money. I say that, but let's be honest, 66,000 Galactic Standard credits is nice. And by that, I mean, according to our book on life in the galaxy, average living standards cost 3,220 a month. Assuming you don't own a building, you're renting and all that. And then you're buying reasonable food. Meaning, theoretically, she could go and just live for a year, 2 years even. No, about one. Almost two. Full ones. You know? Or for 16,800 credits a month, you there are all this could live in luxury, having only the fanciest of foods and luxury lodging for 3 months, 3.9 months. But you get the point? Like, it's not a bad amount. But also for a mercenary on a quest for revenge, I mean, it's nowhere near enough. So we need more. It's so little for a mercenary. Of course, we are buying higher end things. As mentioned, we could get an absolutely normal war pick for 500 to 1,000 bucks instead of 15,000. We could get normal heavy armor for a few thousand bucks instead of like 55,000 bucks. These are choices we're making, but they're choices that ensure our survivability. Hell, you can technically buy a spacecraft for like 100,000 bucks. You're not going to be able to get far with it. It's like the cheapest ramshackle shuttle for hopping between planets in the same system. But like these are options. You could buy 3 cars. Like we can't afford a hover car really with that much, but maybe used. A used damaged hover car we could probably get for like 50,000. Point being, like, we have a lot, but you see how much we spend on things. And we want a starship, and we want skill upgrades, and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff costs 50 to 100,000 Galactic Standard credits a pop. Not to mention medical. Like, actually, if we had to get treated, it would cost a lot. If we want to get surgery for cybernetic implants, it would cost a lot. So, we're sort of stuck where we are. Anyway, we'll try and get some contracts now that we have our contact with us. Well, not with us, but, hooking us up with the local net, which is basically what we wanted our contact to do. Hook us up with contracts. So, we can now take normal jobs. Hmm. What kind of, I mean, we'll have to randomly generate a bunch of those at some point. One second. Here we go. Just making a note because we are nearing the end. Sort of. Maybe we could go for longer. Anyway. Oh, we'll take the car. The gangster car that was up there before, like we're not gonna leave it on the street and all that. And when I say we, I don't mean you and all this, I mean the gang. We'll take the other gang's car and their items and all that. Which we could have probably sold for money, but they repaired our bike, which technically, theoretically cost them money. And we did kind of bring a firefight to their doorstep. So we'll let them keep the gear and bikes, not bikes, the gear and car and all that. In exchange for the medical aid and the repair. Even if they did overcharge us for all the equipment we bought. You know, let's see. Well, at least I know what we are doing next time. We will be taking some of those contracts. So on World Building Wednesday, we will generate a bunch of random missions. And then we will also, next Solo Sunday, we will run those random missions. I know, I always say Solo Sunday. This is technically Solo Sunday. Even if for many of you, it is not Sunday. I always go over that, but it just feels weird saying it every time because, different times. Anyway. So yeah, we'll do those missions. Next time we do this, we'll go on a bunch of actual combat or things like that. We will also one World Building Wednesday, we'll also work on maps and all that. What else do we need to do on World Building Wednesday? Work on the maps. Let's see here. We got our equipment prepared, so we can actually go on more missions. Is there anything else we need to buy? Not really. We also... Oh, I know what I kind of want. I think we've been over this before. I kind of want to get a shotgun. Even though I normally hate them. And have probably ranted here about them repeatedly. But I kind of want to get a shotgun. Specifically, if you're wondering why. Not why I hate them. I've been over that repeatedly. They're overhyped because of games and the like. Even in games, their range is shit. But in life, shotguns don't have shit range. But they're just overhyped and all that. There's a reason they're not the main combat armament of armies, because they're not effective. I mean, they're not effective, but, they're not... There's a reason they're not used. Because they have limited capability when compared to a more versatile rifle. But here, they have cheap use of shells. And by cheap use of shells, I mean, as I've been over before, um, shotguns wound a lot easier. I think they have a +2 wound compared to normal guns. And in addition, they cause bleed. The injury, treating an injury is higher. The increases the DC of that. But the main reason, utility shells. In Galactic Requiem, you can buy specialized ammo. Specialized shotgun ammo is exceptionally cheap compared to specialized ammo of other varieties. So we could buy plasma shells very easily. They're easier to find and easier to buy. It's far harder to even find plasma rounds for a standard ballistic assault rifle. It's so much easier to find plasma rounds for a shotgun. Of course, we can't really use specialized rounds without laser rifle unless we want to spend exceptional amounts of money, and it's very unlikely we'll even find such a thing here. We're in the Terran nations. So it's not like it's not like they don't have lasers here. It's just not like you're going to easily find a place that sells them. Specialized laser ammo, like, laser ammo that does non-laser damage. It's just probably not going to happen. So, like, we're limited in that aspect. But think of it. With a shotgun, we could have spread shells. We could have flechette shells. We could have plasma shells. Even laser shells, yes. We have a laser rifle, so why would we? But even laser shells. Cryo shells. Fire shells. Just so much versatility. So, like, I'm tempted. And that's the great thing. That's the other great thing. Basically, to use any of that, we just need a bog standard shotgun. It doesn't have to be some special, no, just a standard shotgun. So theoretically, we could get it for like as low as 5,000 credits. Assuming we want like, an automatic shotgun. Why would we go for a non-automatic shotgun? Why? We'd go for an automatic shotgun. So, like, these are all choices we could make. Of course, like, there's also the fact that technically we can't legally buy weapons here. We are in enemy territory. You then all this can legally buy equipment from the nation she's from. Not the nation she's from, of course. But I'm pretty sure the nation she's from considers her a terrorist. I mean, well, sort of, not really. Kind of. They consider her government property. As for the, as for what I mean by the nation she's from, I mean the one she's working for. She's working with their military as a licensed contract mercenary. So she could, of course, buy things from there. I mean, being in enemy territory, like on this side of the red line, as opposed to this side, it's not really. I don't think they'll recognize her license over here, given the fact that she's an enemy combatant and all that. So, but luckily we have the gang for that. They'll probably charge us more for a shotgun than it's worth and all that. They're literally only aiding the government for exceptional amounts of money and all that. So basically, it's a situation. Is it worth? That's what it really comes down to. Is it worth spending extra to get a shotgun? How often are we going to switch to it? How often will we need specialized ammo? More often than you might think, but not as often that, I mean, how often are we going to switch to our shotgun? So, maybe not. Could also, go full cyber augments. We could even do, theoretically, the thing that I mentioned at the start. I mean, not right this moment. You and all this can't afford it. But theoretically, you and all this could upload and back up her mind. It would only cost hundreds of thousands of credits, and then even more for the backup. So, it's theoretically an option that we can't afford right now, but we can barely afford cyber augments. Well, that's not true. We can get augmented arms and legs, I suppose. How much do those cost, anyway? We're probably not going to. Uh, Without Imperial tech, mind augment would be dangerous. Not dangerous, I mean like uploading. Yulin Aldous is a caster. She might theoretically lose her casting ability. There's a check for it if she uploads her brain. So that's not ideal. As for cybernetic augments, they don't have too much of an effect on her ability to cast. This isn't one of those things where in Galactic Requiem, there's no, oh no, your soul, you have too many cybernetic augments. No, 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 no. No. You'll be fine. We believe in the full post-humanity and all that, like upload your brain, do it. But it's also like it's not like there's some connection between magic and being natural. There's no connection like that. The thing is, casting has trouble with energy fields. Energy fields disrupt casting. It has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with spirit or being biological or anything like that. If you had cybernetics that didn't affect affect energy fields, if they were running smooth and not affecting energy fields, you can cast. It has nothing to do with like being biological. Sort of. There's like a slight caveat to that in the sense that due to the way robots work processing wise, they can't really cast. And also, like, the way magic works, it's a bit weird. So technically, casting doesn't care. It's not like it matters. It's really sort of this nebulous affinity to the control of energy fields, casting energy fields, that is, not anything else. I mean, theoretically, some people can train the ability to cast, some people are born with the ability to cast, sometimes it's connected to bloodlines. I mean, let's be honest, Yog-Sothoth can do whatever Yog-Sothoth wants. If Yog-Sothoth says that robot can cast, that robot can cast. Yog-Sothoth, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is the Cthulhian entity of travel, time, space, and casters. So, being a literal eldritch deity of manipulating time, space, and casting, well, you get the point. If Yog-Sothoth says the robot can cast, despite being a robot, then the robot can cast. Well, sort of. It genuinely depends. It really depends on how much Yog-Sothoth is invested. Even deities are somewhat bound to the laws of casting. Somewhat. It gets nebulous. A deity, on the power scale of, say, Yog-Sothoth, can, for the most part, absolutely ignore the rules of casting. The laws of casting don't apply to extra-dimensional deities, for the most part. So, can Yog-Sothoth cast through an energy shield? Probably. Can Yog-Sothoth cast through a high energy field? Probably. Can any normal, non-deity caster or lesser deity caster do that? No. But, you know, Yog-Sothoth is Yog-Sothoth. So, yeah. Is Yog-Sothoth going to care enough to specifically alter reality enough that this robot, with enough investment, that this robot can, in fact, cast despite certain factors? Or is Yog-Sothoth just going to be like, yeah, I mean, it's not a high energy field robot, yeah, normal ability to cast? It really depends. Of course, Yog-Sothoth's not going to say that. Yog-Sothoth is just going to do whatever Yog-Sothoth does. But, you know, it's really dependent. Like, even us Imperials, despite all of our tech level 26 vast power and all that, we can't break the laws of magic. Well, I say magic, it's casting, because there's psionics and we can't break those laws. We can't cast through energy shields. We can't do any of those rule breaks of magic. Eldritch deities, on those high tiers, can. So, you know, is there anything the Empire can't do? Yes. Yes, there are some things the Empire can't do. Well, debatably. Can we probably build some sort of super weapon capable of altering reality in an enclosed area, thus allowing us to cast through an energy shield? Maybe. But the investment's so vast, and your average Imperial Lord's not going to be able to pull it off, and like it's just not going to happen. So, you know, it's like 50-50. I say 50-50, it's like not going to happen for an Imperial Lord, but can the Empire do it? As a whole, with our damn near infinite resources? Sure. Anyway, point being, casting is weird and finicky, and it really depends. Uploading her brain might make it so she can't cast, at least without Imperial tech. Of course, with Imperial tech, there is 100% success rate, sort of, for being able to cast even with an uploaded brain. Of course, you can't cast. Of course, you can't cast as a digital entity. Like if your brain's in a computer, it has to be in sort of a biological body with the ability to cast. So, for instance, as we've probably been over before, I swap between bodies on occasion, between combat and non-combat. And then there's backups in case I get shot. Hence, entire mind upload and all that. But I, theoretically, could still cast in any standard Imperial body if it was given the ability to cast. As we've been over before, I'm not a caster. I cannot do any spooky magical shit. It is beyond my capabilities because I have not gone in and gotten the ability to cast. At least on any of the spare bodies laying around and so forth. But, it's an option. And it's not like just because I'm uploaded, it won't work. However, for some people, uploading does not guarantee maintaining the ability to cast, even if you go back into your original body. Casting's finicky. It's on the edge of known science. We understand FTL for the most part. We don't understand casting. Well, most nations don't. The Empire, of course. But that's getting into the lore. We're not here for that. I mean, at this point, we're probably not going to get back to it, so might as well. Technically, the Empire's one of the only factions that can generate tier 3 and 4 casters using artificial methods. Other nations can theoretically generate up to tier 2 casters using artificial methods. The Empire has just a greater understanding. We are the most advanced technological faction in the galaxy. Before the Empire, there were the Ancients who could do all that sort of thing, but, we had a war with them and they all died and, So, yeah. I mean, that's not even entirely true. Not that bit. I mean, the Empire being the only faction who can generate tier 3 and 4. I'm pretty sure the Enstair have special classified works on that. Not sure about the Commonwealth. I think they might too. It's not really their focus, though. The Enstair focus biotech. The Commonwealth focus energy, specifically shields and the like, so it's unlikely that they would focus on any sort of casting. That's not to say they don't have casters. I'm saying, like, generating artificial casters. It's really not their field. Given the wide amount of energy weapons, high energy environments, and energy shields that they use, it's just not likely. But I know that the Enstair have such things. So, The reason I brought up the Commonwealth in that is because they're one of the most advanced factions. Same with the Robots of the Coalition. They're one of the most advanced factions too. But they also don't really deal in casting, do they? They're robots. As I said before, it's not like robots can't cast. Theoretically speaking, it's just generally the way they run their minds requires specialized energy. I said specialized energy, but an amount of energy that just does not usually agree with casting, which is affected by energy. So generally, for the most part, robots can't cast. But also, you can't affect a robot. Well, can you levitate a robot? Sure. Can you cast fireball at a robot? Yes. Can you affect a robot's mind? No, not at all. You cannot affect a robot's mind. Can you create a hologram out of magic? Yes. Can the robot see that hologram? Depends. Maybe yes. It depends on how you go about it. If you make it as a physical distortion of light, yes, the robot can see it. And so you can theoretically trick a robot using magic. But if you're going into somebody's head magically and implanting a holographic image, no, you can't affect the robot. So, like, you get my point. You can directly affect things with high energy fields, with magic, but you can't. You can indirectly affect them, but you can't directly affect them. That's the correct statement of all that. You can hit an energy shield with a magical bolt, but you can't cast beyond the energy field with a magical bolt. Stuff like that. Anyway, then there's Eldritch, which is like considered casting. Technically, Eldritch is not casting. What we consider Eldritch is just anything beyond science. And I know I said casting is beyond science to a degree, but casting also has rules and laws that it follows and uses specific kinds of energy. Eldritch does not use those same kind of energies, and for the most part, defies the basic sciences of magic. When we say magic and science aren't connected, they aren't, but mages, such as the mages up north, have methods. They have their own form of magical sciences that work. Eldritch is beyond that. And that's anything beyond that's considered Eldritch, which is why even just an item that you would be like, oh, that's just an item, can be considered Eldritch. There are magical zombies. There are Eldritch zombies. They can act very similarly, but the energies involved and the methods involved can differ, thus differentiating between the two, and so forth, even if they are similar and basically act under mostly the same principles. And, like things like that. So it's complicated. We'll cover all of it in our lore series. Eventually. So unfortunately, I think we'll call it there because I'm rambling off topic so much. Next World Building Wednesday, we'll actually get not World Building. Next miscellaneous, not yes, miscellaneous Friday. Solo Sunday, miscellaneous Friday. We'll get to the actual action. We'll generate some missions and so forth on World Building Wednesday. Then we'll actually get to some action next time. And on World Building Wednesday, we'll generate those missions, and we will work on actual Lore, we'll work on maps and lore and generate that stuff. And possibly level up. We have to figure out how much XP we get. Probably not a lot, but let's see. By the way, we have a chart that generates XP. It's not like it's random, but basically it's a little questionnaire, basically. So, for instance, were any of the tasks we did trivial, easy, midline, hard, very hard, or incredibly difficult? Trivial. We didn't even do an easy task. Normally, any task is considered an easy task worth 1 XP, but I don't feel we did anything even worth 1 XP. So 0 for event rewards. Did we interact with the event? Yes, we were present, I suppose. You know, we were here, so I guess we get an XP. We took part in the game. Was there any good thinking? Any good plans or thinking or working things out? No. Was there good RP? To a degree, I'll give that. You that Alice read her book. She does love reading her books. She acted in character to a degree. I mean, so that's 2 points of XP so far. Story events did not occur, so we don't get anything for that. No additional difficulty, bonus, or penalty. No additional relevance and importance to plot, penalty, or bonus. That's 2 points. And then match bonus XP. 1 for bonus point for, yes, we RP'd the character to a degree. No bonus for thinking. Was there cooperation between the group, given that I'm the only person in the group? Yes, I think I cooperated pretty well with myself. So 1 point for that. Did we cooperate with the GM? I'm like, not really the GM, but sort of. I didn't insult the bot and disagree with it, I suppose, so we get a point for that. Was the match good? We didn't really get anything done, so no. Did we interact with the world? Not to a degree that I would award a point for. And no XP rollover. So 5 XP is gained. So we will not be leveling up. Unfortunate. I was hoping we would, but you know, we didn't do enough for it, so. At least we got some in-game training in. We have so many options. I mean, we don't and do at the same time. It's weird. For that, I mean, like, we could open a business. We could trade in the space stock market. We can do whatever. It's a living world. We can do whatever. But also we need to complete our contract, and we're tied to our mission. We have to get our revenge. I have no problems with all this. I'm just saying, like, these are options, and eventually we might get to them. Let's see. So yeah, we'll work on all that on World Building Wednesday. At least with our new tokens, I can make maps a bit easier. I did come to another realization. I'm sorry, this was something we talked about on World Building Wednesday, but starships, not starships, space, air-based combat takes place on 2 scales. Now, originally it took place on 250-meter scale, but that has problems. So we're switching it over to there's the 1 kilometer scale, the 10-kilometer scale, we could theoretically run air-based operations on this. We can run air-based operations on the 1 square 1 kilometer, because the average speed is like 5 kilometers a turn. With the speed of, 2,500 times 2 is about 5 kilometers a turn. So, we can run it on that. But on the smaller scale, which is one square is 100 meters, which is what we want to switch the 250 meter squares to. The problem is 5 kilometers. If each one of these, sorry, this would be the accurate one. If each one of these is a 100 meters, that's 1 kilometer. That's 2 kilometers and that's 3 kilometers. They have a max speed of 5. So we'd be off map. So I suppose we could paste these together. But what we're going to do, I suppose this isn't really news, but instead of using these, which we can use for air operations on occasion, we're using a 100-meter grid. Basically, we're taking one of these. Oh, that's the actual blank grid. I was looking for this. Nope. I really gotta rename these. We're taking this, basically. Turning one of these, as one of these is a kilometer, we can just basically, if we ever need to, take a picture of this, and then quite easily take a picture of this, then quite easily shrink it down so this is 10 squares. And then just basically easily convert maps. Which also brings me to another idea. One problem I have when making cities is I like custom placing things, which slows me down. And by that I mean, notice how when we work on cities, we place each individual thing, which sometimes stalls me because I'll be like, I gotta place every individual thing and make it. I have an idea for that though. I can take or make a different set of things like the traveler map tokens. Like so. I can make a set of these custom and make them for different. I can even make them square if I want. But I can make a bunch of them for districts instead of individual buildings. So we can be like residential or commercial or heavy residential or, like the old SimCity and cities. Like City Skyline, SimCity, district sort of thing, so I don't need to actually place every building. Which we can do. I mean, we could place every building, but it would make it a bit easier. That way we don't need to actually spend as much time generating city maps. And then if we ever need to fill them in, we can fill them in because we'll know what things are easily. So I suppose I'll make a bunch of tokens for that. Anyway. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm literally going to go make coffee and then make tokens. I mean, it's not Wobbling Wednesday, and I don't really have a way to display me making them set up. So, I'm just going to make them. I'm going to have coffee and make those tokens. And then, yeah. That's going to be what I'm going to do. I thank you all for stopping by. I'm sorry about the end of this being very much not Solo Sunday-y, even though it's going to the Solo Sunday playlist. I also apologize for not getting much done. But we theoretically should get a lot done next time, because we'll actually be taking contracts. And, We'll try and go for longer next time. We'll try and go for longer on the next Wobbling Wednesday, in which we'll actually get some of this stuff prepared and all that. So, thank you all for stopping by. I hope you had a good time. I quite enjoyed rambling. And, yeah, have a good day.